Okay, tonight is the 25th of August, and this is the 6th night. We are speaking on the Sutta Nipata, the last chapter tonight, chapter 5, Parayana Vaga, the chapter of the way to the beyond. Of all the suttas in the Khuddaka Nikaya, I think that this is the most important, this chapter of the way to the beyond. If you look into it, there's a lot of Dhamma. We start with the prologue. One day a man walked out of the beautiful city of Savatthi in Kosala. He was Bhavari the Brahmin, one versed in the Vedic mantras. He had set out on the southern road in search of detachment. He travelled till he came to the land of the Asakas, and there, where it meets the Alakas land, on the banks of the river Godavari, he stayed, living off fruit and whatever else he could gather. One day, begging in a rich village nearby, he was given such a quantity of gifts that he was able to hold a great offering ceremony. He had just finished the rituals and got back to his hut when another Brahmin arrived at the door. He was thirsty, covered with dust, with stains on his teeth and swellings on his feet. He came up to the hermit and begged to be given 500 pence worth of money. As soon as the hermit saw the visitor, he made him sit down. After he had asked after his health and happiness, he told the man he couldn't help. You see, Brahmin, I've given away everything I've been given. Please forgive me, but I haven't got 500 pence. And the visitor said, You have rejected the pleading of a beggar. May your head split into 7 in 7 days' time as a result of this refusal. And then, before he left, the rascal chanted spells and laid a formal curse on Bhavari, to the Brahmin's great distress. In the days that followed, the Brahmin's pain increased. The sadness and grief were like darts in his side. He couldn't eat. He just wasted away. He couldn't even settle his mind in meditation. But a friendly goddess spirit saw him in his suffering and fear, and so she came to his hut and talked to him. He was only an impostor, that man, she said, trying to make easy money. Besides, he was ignorant. He knows nothing about the head and nothing about head splitting. Goddess, said the Brahmin, if he doesn't know, then who does? If you understand head splitting, then please tell me all about it. I have to understand it. No, said the spirit, I can't help you. I don't know a thing about it. The only people who can know about things like that are conquerors. Well then, Goddess, said the Brahmin, you must tell me who in the world I can go to who will know. And this is how the goddess replied. In the line of the great king Okaka, a boy has been born to the Sakyans. He has gone out of their capital Kapilavatthu. He has gone into the world as a leader and a light. This man, Brahmin, has total enlightenment. This man has total perfection. This man has the power of total knowledge, the eye of total vision. He has found the total ending. He has lost the basic grasping and is free. He is enlightenment. He is a Buddha. He is a Lord, a master of blessings for the world. He has the eye of vision and he teaches the way things are. Go to him and ask your questions. He will explain it all. When Bhavari heard that word Sambuddha, the name for total enlightenment, he was lifted to the heights of joy. As his sorrow quietened down, he felt immense delight take him over. The gladness and joy made him eager and deeply thrilled. Where, he asked the goddess, does this world guide live? Which village is he in? Which town? Which state? Let's go and honor this man, this ultimate being. And the goddess said, the conqueror lives in Savatthi, in Kosala. This Sakyan is a wealth of wisdom and a world of knowledge. He is unharnessed and undefiled. He has the strength of a hero, of a bull. He is the one to ask about head splitting. So Bhavari the Brahmin called his pupils together, all of them, versed in Vedic mantras too. Come here, Brahmin students, he said, and listen to this. I have something to tell you. Something has happened, something that rarely takes place in the world. A Sambuddha has arrived. Yes, a man has been born in the world who is now recognized as fully enlightened. Brahmins, you must go immediately to Savatthi to see this perfect being. But Brahmin, sir, said the students, how can we go if we don't know what enlightenment looks like? Tell us, sir, how to recognize it. And the Brahmin said, the ancient teachings listed each one of the 32 marks of greatness on a Superman. When a person is born with these marks on his body, then we can say that one of two things will happen to him, that he has two choices open to him and no more. He can choose the life of a layman, the home life. Then he will conquer the world, not by force, but by virtue. Or he can choose to leave his home, to live as a homeless wanderer, and then he will become a Sambuddha, a man of worth, a fully enlightened, incomparable one. Now when you think you have found this man, you must ask questions in your mind about my age, my family, my body marks, my rituals and my pupils, and ask about head splitting too. If he is the Buddha with perfect penetrating vision, then he will answer aloud the questions you've asked in your minds. As Bavari talked, his Brahmin students listened. There were 16 of them, all of them famous teachers in their own right, namely Ajita, Tisametya, Punaka, Metagu, Dotaka, Upasiva, Nanda, Hemaka, Todeya, Kappa, Jatukani, the scholar, Bhadravudha, Udaya, Posala, Mogaraja, the learned, and the great teacher Pingya, the wise. All of them were there. They were all well known as teachers and as men who found their enjoyment in life through their meditation practice. They were men, it was said, who had not lost the scent of their previous good deeds. When Bavari had finished his instructions to them, they carefully paid their respects and walked past him to his right. With their hide robes and their hair and their braided plaits of hair, they set off towards the north. They travelled through the land of the Alakas, coming first to Patitana, then to Mahusati, Ujjaini and Gonada. On they went to Vedisa and Vadnasa, to Kosambi and Saketa, until they came to the greatest of all cities, Savatthi. From there they set out again, this time to the land of Magadha. They passed on their way through Setavya, Kapilavatu, and the town of Kusinara. They went on to Bhava, to Bogan Nagara, the city of wealth, and then to Vesali, where they came to the beautiful Pasanaka Chettiya, the rock temple. They climbed up the mountain path with the zeal and the haste of a merchant drawn to wealth, or a thirsty man to cool water, or a man with sunstroke to shade. And there, with the Sangha of monks gathered all around him, sat the Lord, the Blessed One. He was explaining the Dhamma to them. The lion was roaring in the jungle. Ajita saw the man of full enlightenment. It was like the sun shining without burning. It was like the moon bright and full on a full moon day. He could see all the signs of greatness clearly marked on his body. Astonished and overjoyed, he stood respectfully to one side and silently thought his first question. Tell me, he asked in his mind, how old my teacher is. Tell me what his family name is. Tell me how many of the marks of greatness he has got, and how well versed he is in the Vedic mantras, and how many does he teach. He is 120 years old, said the master aloud. His family name is Bavari. He has 3 of the body marks. He has complete knowledge of the 3 Vedas, and also of the commentaries, rituals, and signs. He instructs 500, and he has reached the ultimate stage according to his teaching. Describe Bavari's body marks, Masterman, Desire Cutter, said Ajita silently, so that we have no room at all for doubt. And the Buddha said, these are his 3 body marks, young man. His tongue is large enough to cover his mouth. there is a tuft of hair growing between the eyebrows, and the foreskin completely covers the phallus. Everybody could hear the Master talking to someone they could not see. Who was asking these questions they couldn't hear? Was it some god, they wondered? Was it Indra, Brahma, or Sakka? Who was the Master talking to? Astonished, they made the folded hand gesture in respect. Meanwhile, Ajita was asking another mental question. Bavari asked about heads, Master, he thought, and about how they are split. Please, great teacher, answer this question too. The head, said the Master, is not understanding. The head is split in pieces and destroyed by understanding, with its army of powers in support, confidence, mindfulness, meditation, and determination and energy. These are the powers that split heads. With the thrill of exaltation stiffening every pore of his body, the young Brahmin student bared his shoulder from his height and got down to the ground at the feet of the Master. Sir, he said with his head bowed, Lord, Seer, Bavari, the Brahmin, and all his followers are filled with joy and delight. We have come to offer you honor and reverence here at your feet. And the Buddha said, May Bavari, the Brahmin, and all his followers be happy. May you be happy too, young man, and may your life be long. For Bavari, for you, and for all of your group, there are many different doubts and confusions. You now have the opportunity to ask about them. Ask now whatever you want to know. The man of full enlightenment had given Ajita permission, so the Brahmin student respectfully sat down, made the folded hand gesture, and addressed his first question to the thus gone one. Stop here for a moment. This is the prologue, and might not be the actual sutta. It might have been concocted over the years, like this initial part where the beggar begged him for 500 pence and he refused to give and cursed him and he got frightened. Hard to believe if he's so learned and he knows all the mantras, he should have more powerful mantras. Now this is the real Dhamma part. Ajita's questions. What is it, said Ajita, that smothers the world? What makes the world so hard to see? What would you say pollutes the world? And what threatens it most? And the Buddha said, It is ignorance which smothers, and it is carelessness and greed which makes the world hard to see. The hunger of desire pollutes the world, and the great source of fear is the pain of suffering. In every direction, said Ajita, the rivers of desire are running. How can we dam them, and what will hold them back? What can we use to close the floodgates? And the Buddha said, Any river of desire can be stopped with the dam of mindfulness or recollection, sati. I call it the flood stopper, and with wisdom you can close the floodgates. Sir, said Ajita, where there is wisdom and mindfulness, there is also the hybrid of mind and matter. What brings it all to a halt? This is the answer to your question, Ajita, said the Buddha. Individuality can be brought to a total end by the cessation of consciousness. Stop here for a moment. This cessation of consciousness is Nirodha Samapatti. When a person comes out of that state, then he becomes enlightened. Sir, said Ajita, there are people here who have mastered all the teachings, and there are students and apprentices, and ordinary people too. Tell me how these people should live and work. And the Buddha said, Let them be like a wanderer, a monk, mindful and skillful in every way. They should free themselves from the hunger for sense pleasures and make their minds calm and undisturbed. Stop here for a moment. So here, of all the words, you can look for those, the more important ones. Among the many precious stones, we look for the bigger diamonds. Normally when we study the suttas, we look for the important parts, the really important parts. So you see this number 3 and 4, the rivers of desire are running. So the Buddha says it can be stopped with mindfulness or recollection. And with wisdom, you can totally close the floodgates. So this mindfulness or recollection is very important. It is unremitting mindfulness on one object, so that the mind does not stray. When the mind strays, then you have like and dislike, opinions and views and all that. So you have desires. So even in some of the previous sutta we read that when a monk goes forth, all the memories of the lay life come back to haunt him. So the first years as a monk, even for your 3 months or so, you can know all the thoughts go back to the home. A lot of dukkha when you miss your home, your family members and all that. So if a person renounces for good, it's even worse. You all 3 months, at least you know after 3 months, you sure go back. But if a person renounces for good, then like the Buddha, at the age of 29 he renounced. I'm sure all the thoughts go back to the family, to the wife, to the son who was just born. He probably cried night after night. But because he was already an Arya, the determination, the Buddha said, grit your teeth when the going is hard. Grit your teeth and bear it. Everything is anicca. The suffering also is anicca. The feelings, you can get over them after a while. You need to cry, have a good cry. Then after that, struggle on again. So this mindfulness, always putting your mind on your object. Your mind does not go back to those things that you have always desired. All those things, your attachments. Even when we meditate, whenever we meditate, you find the thoughts come up non-stop. And those thoughts that come and disturb you are all your attachments. But you have to fight with it. Otherwise, when you, in a few more years, when we all have to go, these same thoughts will come and haunt you. You have attachments on your deathbed. All these attachments will come and haunt you. So, okay. Tissa Metiya's questions. Then the Brahmin student, Tissa Metiya, asked the master some questions. Who in the world is contented? Santusito, he asked. Is there anyone who isn't full of agitation? Is there anyone who can understand the alternatives without getting stuck in his thinking between them? And who would you say deserve the title super being? Who is there who isn't caught up in the patchwork world of greed? And the Buddha said, there is a person who is not full of agitation. It is the monk whose actions in a sensuous world are pure and good. His actions or conduct in a sensuous world are pure and good. He does not have the thirst of craving. He never loses mindfulness, and he has by his own decision become extinguished. Calm. He understands the alternatives without being stuck in the thinking between them. This is whom I would call a super being, a man beyond the patchwork world of greed. Stop here for a moment. So here, Tissa Metiya's questions. I find this paragraph number 2 very important. He does not have the thirst of craving. He never loses mindfulness. So we have to give up the craving. All the things that we love are the very things that will give us suffering. If we are not attached to anything, there would not be suffering. It's the very things that we love and desire. Those are the very things one day will give us a lot of pain when we have to part from them or they have to part from us. So this craving, we have to give up attachment. And then he never loses mindfulness. This is unremitting mindfulness. Only when you have unremitting mindfulness, the stray thoughts don't flow. If you don't have unremitting mindfulness, then the stray thoughts flow. And it's these stray thoughts that give you havoc in the mind, that give you suffering. All the, what we call in Chinese, da wang xiang, all the stray thoughts, all the thinking. The more you think, the more you suffer, mental suffering. Punaka's questions. The Brahmin student Punaka was the next to speak. I have come, he said, to ask a question of the one without desire, the one with root depth wisdom. It is this, Master, that I would like you to explain. Why is it that the wise men in the world, the Brahmins, rulers and others, have always offered sacrifices to the gods? And the Buddha said, these men were always making offerings to gods because as they grew older, they wanted to preserve their lives as they were. But Master, said Punaka, did they ever get beyond old age and birth by making all these careful offerings? Their prayers, said the Buddha, their praises, their offerings and aspirations were all made on a basis of possession, of reward. They longed for sensual pleasure. These men, these experts in offerings, were delighting in the passion for becoming. These men could not go beyond getting old and being born. You must explain this to me, Master, said Punaka. If all the offerings of the experts couldn't get them beyond aging and birth, then who of all men, who of all the gods has ever managed to go beyond? And the Buddha said, when a person has assessed the world from top to bottom, when there is nothing in the world that raises a flicker of agitation, then he has become a person free from the smoke fumes, the tremblings and the hunger of desire. He has become calm. He has gone beyond getting old. He has gone beyond being born. So this last paragraph, when there is nothing in the world that raises a flicker of agitation, nothing to make you excited about, that means you have to give up all the attachments. Then only are you free of the tremblings and the hunger of desire. Metagu's questions. Then the Brahmin student Metagu asked his question. Master, he said, you are clearly a mind of full development and a master of knowledge. Where on earth do all the different kinds of suffering come from? And the Buddha said, this is a question about the birth and growth of suffering. I will answer it in the way that I myself have found it, which is this. All the different forms of suffering develop from the basic clinging. When a person does not realize this, he makes attachments. The fool will undergo suffering. When a person realizes this, he should not make attachments, seeing where suffering starts and grows. That clearly answers what I asked, sir, said Metagu. Please answer this one too for me, because of your certain knowledge. How do wise men cross the ocean? How can they get beyond the aging process? How can they get beyond birth or sadness or sorrow? The Master replied, I will explain to you the truth, not based on hearsay. First, realize that this way is one which can be known here and now, as a result of which a mindfully living person releases his hold on the world. Master Teacher Metagu said, for me there can be only joy and delight to hear you talk about a supreme way, which when a mindfully living person knows it, releases his hold on the world. The Master continued, in every direction there are things you know and recognize, above, below, around and within. Leave them. Do not look to them for rest or relief. Do not let consciousness dwell on the products of existence, on things that come and go. This is how the wandering monk lives. He goes from place to place mindful and resolute. He does without cherished objects and comes to understand the world. So he leaves aging and birth behind. He leaves sadness and sorrow behind. And he lets go of suffering here itself. These great words of wisdom are full of joy for me, said Metagu. Gautama's description of non-attachment is perfect. This master clearly has let go of suffering. He has found and understood just as it is the way things work. The people whom you, the wisdom master, regularly teach will certainly lose suffering. As for me, I have come here to honor you, to bow down before you, a hero. I ask you, Master, to give me frequent teachings. The Master answered, when you are aware that a man is a Brahmana, a master of knowledge, a person with nothing, a creature with no ties to being or to pleasure, then, Metagu, you have found an ocean crosser, a traveller beyond the deserts and the doubts, a voyager who has reached the other shore. This is a knower, a master of knowledge, a hero who has dissipated the pull of constant becoming, a man who has lost the clinging, the trembling and the hunger of desire. This, I would say, is the man who has gone beyond getting old. He has gone beyond being born. Stop here for a moment. So you see paragraph 3. Paragraph 3, a person should not make attachments. If you have attachments, you will undergo suffering. And then paragraph 5, realize that this way is one which can be known here and now, as a result of which a mindfully living person releases his hold on the world. So, again, you have to be mindful of your meditation object all the time so that the mind does not wander. And then number 7, paragraph 7, do not let consciousness dwell on the products of existence, on things that come and go. Everything in the world comes and goes. So, if we think about them, attach to them, then we will suffer. Then number 8, mindful and resolute, without cherished objects. He comes to understand the world and leave the cycle of existence behind. So you need mindfulness and you need resolute, that means energetic effort, without cherished objects, without attachments. Okay, Dotaka's questions. The Brahmin student Dotaka was the next to speak. Master, he said, I so much want to hear you speak. Please, Master Teacher, explain to me, can the student of your teachings find the calm of cessation for himself? And the Buddha said, any student of my teaching who is eager, intelligent and recollected, here and now can find the calm of cessation for himself. I can see now, said Dotaka, that there is in this world a man who has nothing, a Brahmana, a wanderer. I bow down and honor you, sir, the eye that sees everything. Please, man of Sakya, free me from confusion. And the Buddha said, it is not in my practice to free anyone from confusion. When you have understood the most valuable teachings, then you yourself will cross this ocean. Have pity on me, Brahmana, sir, said Dotaka. Please teach me the way of detachment so that I can know it as it is, so that I can live in this life in the peace and independence that is as free as the air and space. And the Buddha said, I will explain that peace which is not based on hearsay and is attainable here and now. It is a peace which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. Master Teacher, said Dotaka, it can only bring me joy to hear about an ultimate peace, which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. In every direction, said the Buddha, above, below, around and within, there are things you know and recognize. When you realize that these are the things which tie you to the world, then you can lose the thirst of craving, the desire for constant becomings. Stop here for a moment. So you see paragraph number 2. Any student who is eager, intelligent, and recollected or mindful, here and now can find the calm of cessation. So you got to be eager and have the desire, and then got to be intelligent and got to practice mindfulness all the time. And then paragraph 6, it is a peace which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. Again, it talks about being mindful. Whenever you see the word mindful, you must remember it is sati. Sati is a specific mindfulness, not a general mindfulness. And then paragraph 8, All the things that you know and recognize in the world are the things which tie you to the world. So everything have to let go. That's why it's so hard to practice a spiritual path. Upasiva's questions. Then the Brahmin student, Upasiva, asked the question. Man of Sakya, he said, it is not possible for me to cross the massive ocean alone and without help. You are the eye that sees everything. Please tell me what I can use to help me cross the ocean. Then the master said, use these two things to help you cross the ocean, the perception of nothingness and the awareness that there is nothing. Give up sense pleasures and be free from doubts. So you will begin to see and to long for an end to craving. Master, said Upasiva, when a man is free from attachment to all pleasures and depends on nothingness and everything else he lets go, he is freed in the supreme freedom from perception. But will he permanently be there and not return again? And the Buddha said, when a man is free from all sense pleasures and depends on nothingness, he is free in the supreme freedom from perception. He will stay there and not return again. Master, you have the eye that sees everything, said Upasiva. If this man stays many years in this state without returning, will be cooled and freed there itself. Say whether consciousness will still exist for such a person. And the Buddha said, it is like a flame struck by a sudden gust of wind. In a flash it has gone out, and nothing more can be known about it. It is the same with the wise man, freed from mental existence. In a flash he has gone out, and nothing more can be known about him. Please explain this clearly to me, sir, said Upasiva. You, a wise man, know precisely the way these things work. Has the man disappeared? Does he simply not exist? Or is he in some state of perpetual well-being? And the Buddha said, when a person has gone out, then there is nothing by which you can measure him. That by which he can be talked about is no longer there for him. You cannot say that he does not exist. When all ways of being, all phenomena are removed, then all ways of description have also been removed. And the Buddha said that like the Buddha is enter Nibbana, he is unfathomable. You cannot fathom his state, you cannot understand his state. This paragraph 3, when a man is free from attachment to all pleasures and depends on nothing, and everything else he lets go, then he is freed in the supreme freedom. Nanda's questions. The next of the Brahmin students to speak was Nanda, and this is what he asked the Buddha. Many people in the world, he said, talk of wise men who they say are living in the world. What do you think about this? When they call someone wise, are they talking about his knowledge or about the way he lives? To the experts, said the Master, the word wise has nothing to do with the way a person sees things, or with what he has been taught, or with what he understands. To me, Nanda, a wise man is one who is disarmed. He lives in seclusion, without the tremble or the hunger of desire. Then, Master, said Nanda, there is another question I must ask you. All religious teachers and Brahmins have talked about the way to be pure. Some have said that purity comes from worldviews and from teachings. Some have said it comes from good deeds and religious rituals. Others have said it comes from other things. Would you say, sir, that these men living in this world who have taught these things have gone beyond birth and aging? And the Buddha said, I would say this about religious teachers who teach that views and teachings, or deeds and rituals, or anything else will make you pure. I would say that these men living in this world have not gone beyond birth and aging. But Master, said Nanda, these men who teach that purity comes from views and teachings, or deeds and rituals, and other things, these men are religious leaders, and you say that they are not ocean crossers. I must ask you another question, sir. Can you, a wise man, say who in the world has gone beyond birth and aging? And the Buddha said, I do not say that all religious teachers and Brahmins are wrapped in the shroud of birth and aging. There are some who have let go of worldviews, of teaching traditions of thoughts. They have let go of religious practices and rituals. They have left all the different forms behind, and they have a total understanding of attachments. For them, there are no asavas. These truly are the ocean crosses. How perfect is the wisdom master's explanation of non-attachment, said Nanda. It fills me with joy to hear it, and to hear that there are people who have let go of views, of traditions, of thoughts, of religious practices and rituals, and of all the different forms. And these people have a total understanding of attachment. They have lost the asavas. These are the people whom I too will call the ocean crosses. So you look at paragraph 2, this important part. A wise man lives in seclusion. You find a holy man always like to live alone.